ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. The gambling industry in Canada changed forever on April 4th. Our neighbors to the north now can enjoy sports betting, mobile sports betting, online casinos, and online poker. It's one of the biggest gambling expansions we've seen in a while. Our guest coming up will tell us all you need to know about gambling in Canada. I'm going to be talking with returning guest Paul Burns, who is the president and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Canadian gaming. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
Yeah, you, come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore.
Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Whoa!
I think we got a show.
Oh, yeah, we got a show.
We definitely got a show.
Oh, yeah, there's a show. Hey, it's all about ratings, baby, and we got them.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. April 4th was an incredible day if you're a gambler in Canada. Sports betting, online casinos, online poker. If you enjoy those activities, Canada just became heaven on earth. The expansion of gambling in Canada has just been amazing, and we're going to talk to a person who helped make that happen. On the line, we have the president and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association, Paul Burns. Paul, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again.
Again, congratulations. As I said, April 4th was just incredible for the Canadian gambling industry. I mean, mobile sports betting, online casinos, online poker is now offered. Take us back to April 4th. What went live? Where did it go live? I mean, give us your impressions of what that day was like.
Well, it was a great day to finally have happen. Because as you know, the Ontario, Canada in particular, was home for a very large gray market. About $1 billion a year in GGR leaving Canada to offshore online operators. About half of that from the province of Ontario. And so, 4 years ago, the province of Ontario started the discussions about looking at options to create a regulated market for online gaming. As the largest province, most population within, and be the fifth largest jurisdiction in North America when you compare it to the U.S. states. They decided to move forward, and in a fairly, by government standards, 3 years in short order, did a lot of great work and got the regulatory framework set up, the revenue share model created, and we saw the first day 12 companies with 17 sites enter the market. We're going to get more in the days and weeks and months ahead. I think now there's in the mid-20s of operators have now been registered, and there's more added every day. There's probably close to 60, 70 suppliers in the queue. They even got applications last week, just before the deadline. So, because they said to everybody, if your application's in before April 4, you can stay in the market and transition in. If you don't do that, you'll be deemed a legal operator and take your chances. So, there's been a great take-up, and I suspect somewhere closer to 40 by the end of, closer to probably next fall, will be in the marketplace in Ontario. We'll see how everybody does. But it was a great sort of wall to get over to get in to the market, because now it started. Now it's really, it's the operators and for the consumers will decide, what they like and what they don't like, and hopefully it's a healthy, competitive market.
Give us a little overview of the gambling industry in Canada. I mean, you mentioned provinces. I mean, in the U.S., the individual states here regulate the gambling within their borders. Is that what it's like in Canada? The province regulate gaming within their territory, right?
They do, and that's why, the gaming is the overarching laws are in the federal criminal code. It's kind of backwards, because it says all gaming is illegal unless it's conducted and managed by the provincial government or their agents. And it's that last line about conduct and manage that's been interpreted 6-7 different ways by the provinces. They're free to do what they wish to do. They regulate within their jurisdiction. So Ontario was and is the first jurisdiction to create a regulated marketplace, and we'd like to see more jurisdictions look at a regulatory model. Okay, and just like in the U.S., not everybody's going to be the same. Sure. Ontario took a step of being an open license model. Anybody can come and apply. I mean, that's unique to North America right now. And I think that's will that work everywhere? It may not. For some, it may be the best option. For others, they may choose a more tethered model. They may choose a limited number of licenses. Because Ontario does represent about 40-45% of the Canadian population. It's the biggest province, unique in that regard. And so that may work for them, and others are going to have to. We want them to take a look at the opportunity now to say what you can do, because they do a lot of complaining about the gray market, but they don't do anything to solve it. And we finally had a jurisdiction that said, yes, solve it, because we want to get a bit of a level playing field for the industry. The casino operators in Ontario wanted to enter the online gaming market and extend their brands. The province still has some work to do to make sure that platform is truly level, and there's work to be done still, and they recognize that. But they, that's the way the industry's going. We want to be able to extend their brand, that omni-channel experience. So on all levels, this was a good day to move the industry forward a little bit and start a bit more evolution. Canada's punched way above its weight in the online gaming world. PokerStars was founded here in Toronto. I mean, Flutter International has a technology development center. They have about 550 people here working in the Toronto area. Been here for 20 years. And, we've had a lot of early pioneers in the industry came out of Canada. And this licensing model now is a real invitation for people to come back to Ontario and Canada, set up their businesses, and do business from here. And that's part where I'm spending a lot of time talking about is the association.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Drizzly makes it easy to shop a huge selection of beer, wine, and liquor from wherever I am. I just open the app, find what I want, and it's at my door in under 60 minutes.
Drizzly. Ding dong, Drizzly.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Your Majesty, the royal wrestlers await.
I'll bet on the little guy. How much? 3,000 guineas, 2 geese, and a duck. That's a foul bet.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with the president and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association, Paul Burns. Now, summertime's coming up, and I know a lot of people will be traveling this summer, and Canada is an absolutely beautiful place to visit, and I just want to clear up some things. So for people who visit Canada, do you have to be physically present in the particular territory or province to place a bet online there? I mean, if you can't if you're in one province, you can't place a bet with a provider in another province. Is that correct?
That is correct. You must be within the boundaries of the province of Ontario to participate. And you don't have to be a resident of Ontario, but you have to be present. And so looking at the geolocation map and things on in the early days of the 4th and 5th, and a lot of activity on some of the borders, particularly in the border between Ontario and Quebec.
I was actually going to ask you that because anytime in the U.S., after a big betting event like the Super Bowl or March Madness, we have the stories coming out that some people who are not in the jurisdiction try to place bets in a jurisdiction there that has online gambling. I know it's early in the process, but have there been issues with gamblers testing the geofencing?
I haven't heard anything significant, to be honest. I mean, one, the technology works really well. Two, the KYC provisions, so the customer sign-up provisions, are robust in the sense of having to provide a piece of identification that's photographed. So you got to prove you live in the province. You have to be verified, and so it's great that the technology is that operators are using is so robust that it makes it. I've signed up for 2 or 3 of the apps, and in 3-4 minutes you're done. It's great, but they do ask you have to have your ID ready, and you have to do those things. So it's not easy at all, and so they want to know who you are, and then obviously through geolocation they know where you are, and it seems to be working. I haven't heard of any major issues at this point from operator. Everybody's really pleased.
Well, let me ask you about
the way
that.
all of their technologies performed to date.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about that. I mean, generally, how did the April 4th opening go? Did you hear about any problems or glitches in the system? Was everyone pleased with how everything went that day?
They were.
Okay,
I mean, there was really 2 groups in that day because operators like Bet365. Bet365 has been in the Canadian gray market for years. I would say they're the largest operator in the province with a very healthy market share. But they needed to transition their customers to a new platform and have them re-verify their KYC, their identity information. So they had to go. They had to move mountains, and by and large, I heard pretty positive things. It wasn't an easy exercise, I'm sure, and customers don't always understand the nuances of gaming regulation, or nor do they want to. So it's like, why are you making me do this? There was future bets that had to be canceled and reissued or cashed out. So there were a lot of customer service issues for operators who are transitioning from what was the gray market into the legal regulated market. And that was a unique feature where Ontario didn't force people out, didn't make them abandon their customers. They just said, no, if you apply and get your process going before April 4th, you'll be allowed to transition your customers. So it's been for them, it's, a process of having to move customers to a compliant platform. We do their KYC information, and it's been, by and large, it's worked really well for everybody. I've heard no major complaints. The one significant impact for some segment is a DFS player. Ontario doesn't have liquidity at this point for beyond its borders. We, as an industry, want to see international liquidity, much like the UK or other jurisdictions have. That's what actually people in Canada have been used to. And so Liquidity was the biggest barrier, but DFS has also been treated as a gambling product.
Mm-hmm.
And so some operators, more because of liquidity and not being able to, because the definition of what's a skill game in Canada is very different than the U.S.
Yeah.
And so that's been the biggest bump where customers have seen products they like go away.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it'll be forever. I think it's, but the liquidity issue is one that's outstanding that the industry would like to see resolved. And I think even the government agencies would like to have liquidity. That was their opening position years ago when they started this, and there's some battles between lawyers, basically, that still haven't been solved. So.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because one of the big stories here was, FanDuel was a licensed sportsbook operator in Canada, and all of a sudden now they're not offering daily fantasy sports. I'm glad you brought that up. So is that a big issue with other providers as well?
It has been with some. Obviously, it was with DraftKings as well, as they prepare, and they. But we've also, there's some. I've spoken to the DFS Association, and I've spoken to some of the Canadian DFS operators that have been working in the market, and they're as pure play DFS operators. It's the liquidity question has really been the biggest one, and not being able to pool anymore, and so that's it was the whether it's treated and regulated as a gambling product is that can those issues can is it the right regulatory level? Is it the right revenue share model? Is it all of those things? Those can be discussed. The liquidity question is a strong legal question. Without it, they really can't do business. It's hard.
Sure.
And that's one we want to see solved. So is it a forever? Maybe not. Let's hope not, but we'll see.
Well, we mentioned sports betting, so I might as well start there. Who were the major operators that went live on April 4th for sports betting?
So we had Caesars.com went up with a website. BetMGM launched their app. FanDuel, Leo Vegas, PointsBet, BetRivers, 365, as I mentioned earlier, Unibet, 888. So, and The Score, which is obviously a Toronto-based book, and doing great work up here. Rivalry was another Ontario, Toronto-based company that started with a specialization in esports. They have a license in Australia, and now they're licensed here in Ontario and up and running. So it's still growing, the list. There will be more coming. We'll expect, the B1 Party Group is coming in with, we have Betway. We, in fact, DraftKings has reiterated publicly their intentions to enter the market in short order. They're still working through the process. We have another Canadian-based operator called Bet99, which had been in the gray market, and then they are transitioning to the legal regulated market. So it's because they can offer casino games as well. It's made it a lot more attractive to have a full-on gaming suite for everybody to enter this market, and I think that's been part of the attraction. We've got some unique brands coming, and it's going to be exciting. I think we've still, there's applications in the process, and so in the coming weeks and months, we'll see more.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards. Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of April 11th, 2022. Boyd Gaming announced that they will acquire Pala Interactive. Pala is a California gaming and software company primarily owned by the Pala Band of Mission Indians. The deal is reportedly worth $170 million. Pala is not only operating in the United States, but also recently received its Ontario Gaming-related supplier manufacturer license in order to operate in Canada. Hell's Kitchen is coming to Atlantic City. Chef Gordon Ramsay will be opening up the first Hell's Kitchen on the East Coast in Caesars Atlantic City, replacing the Dusk nightclub and Planet Hollywood on the boardwalk. The season 21 winner of Hell's Kitchen will be named the head chef of the Atlantic City location. No exact date has been set for the opening, but reports are that it plans to open its doors this summer. And finally, most of us would be happy winning the lottery just once, but a Suffolk, Virginia woman won the lottery 4 times in about 4 weeks. Crystal Smith won $100 on a scratch ticket on week 1, another $100 the next week, $200 on the 3rd week, and on the 4th week she won $100,000 on the White Ice Crossword 5 times game from the Virginia Lottery. I've never heard of someone having a hot streak on the lottery. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Why, you cheap crook, stealing a baby's bank. It's only a lend-lease. I figured to bet on the 50-to-1 shot and double the baby's money. Why, you imbecile. Why don't you pick a 100-to-1 shot and triple it? Oh, okay.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with the president and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association, Paul Burns. Are there any uniquely Canadian operators? One of the great stories in the U.S. is a sports book called Tennessee Action 24/7. It's run by people from Tennessee for just the state of Tennessee. Are there any Canadian operators like that just for Canada?
Yes, there's a couple, and one other I didn't mention. It's called North Star Bets.
Oh, okay.
And North Star is actually a division of the Toronto Star, which is Canada's largest daily newspaper.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so North Star will be launching in a few weeks. But we have them. The Score, obviously, as being a homegrown Toronto-based organization. As I mentioned earlier, Bet99, Rivalry, all have been our local players who companies are based here and operating. So will we see more? I don't know at this point, but that's a good start. And I suspect we have, and we also have a lot of good Canadian companies in the supplier side as well. So it's been, we're a great technology center in the Greater Toronto area. With the Score, after they were bought out by Penn, announced the expansion of their office. They're moving into a new 80,000 square foot office. They've probably hired 200 people in the last year, and they're on track to hire 200 more. They've rebuilt their own tech stack.
Wow.
Game again has a development office here. Bet Rivers has about 50 people here doing technology and development work. And that's the other side of this, is that there's great depth of technology talent, and that's why some of the companies are starting to look to set up offices here, because they can get their tech work and development work done here. The province of Ontario has a digital tax credit for wages, so you can get up to 30% of your wages back.
Whoa.
Doing technology development work. So there's lots of great attributes and why people are sort of coming in, and why it's easy for companies like The Score, North Star, Bet99, and others to get their operations up and running.
Now, every week in the U.S., you hear about the deals sports leagues are making with sportsbook operators. Is that the case in Canada? What has been the sports league's reaction to the start of the sports betting in the country in terms of deals?
Well, they've been very much embracing this. So the two largest, and the sports media side, because in Canada, the two largest sports networks, Sportsnet and TSN, owned by the two largest communication companies, broadcasters, mobile phone providers. So they're integrated, digital communications companies. They also each have a third ownership in the Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment. So they have had a strong interest. There's partnerships, coming to Toronto Maple Leafs and the Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, the Raptors and TFC. They haven't announced any particular partnerships yet. Everybody's kind of waiting to see where they're going to land. But TSN is a larger national broadcaster, partnered with FanDuel this week. And the Canadian Football League has been they have a sportsbook provider partnership with a company called Bet Regal, which is Canadian owned, been operating through the Americas, and they also did a joint venture with Genius Sports on a fan engagement package. So they've been out very active. We have emerging Canadian Premier League here, which is 3 or 4 years old. COVID kind of got in the way for some of their growth. And the Canadian Elite Basketball League, which is a emerging professional league, and all have been looking at sports betting partnerships. So they're thrilled. The NHL teams are anxious to see how the Canadian Football League in particular has been a huge supporter of seeing this, as they've had some. They lost a season to COVID, put them in some financial difficulty, but they're emerging and they're really looking forward to the season, which starts for them in about 8 weeks. What sports betting can do for them, so they're really looking forward to this season.
Now, there's legislation in many states in the U.S. to allow sports books in stadiums and arenas. I know Washington, D.C. already has that, and Pennsylvania just opened up a sports book in a restaurant. Do you see sports betting expanding like that in Canada, or is it even in the works right now?
In Ontario, it's not. They've limited it to Ontario's home to 28 casino properties. It will be launching in the casinos only, in the retail setting. Province of Alberta recently wanted to pick 2 sportsbook operators, but they were offering up partnerships with the CFL and NHL teams in the province, so the Flames and Oilers, Elks and Stampeders, to do in-stadium opportunities. I suspect Ontario is taking a very cautious approach in their look at this in terms of, because they can't advertise bonuses and incentives in Ontario in mass market media. You can offer them, you just can't do it in your advertising. So they've taken a very measured approach, and I think, over time they may review that, especially for stadiums. Retail licensed establishments, bars, and restaurants, they have particularly said to them, no, we don't want you to rebrand yourself that way. We don't want you to offer kiosks and devices. So they've this right now. It's the retail product will be in casinos only.
Now, Bet Rivers and Sugar House announced that they are one of the first brands to receive the RG Check accreditation. What is that, and why is that important for the Canadian gaming industry?
One of the things we've done in Canada, partly because of the government involvement in gaming, responsible gaming has been really at the forefront of the discussion in the gaming industry in Canada for 15 years more. We have some great programs that were developed here in Canada that have been exported around the world. I mean, the GameSense program used by MGM and their North American properties was developed in British Columbia. It's used in 5 provinces, and the RG Tech model was used as ensuring that you've got the right policies and procedures and tools for players to have access to responsible gaming features, education, design, how your marketing works. And so it's like a third-party accreditation process that the province of Ontario has asked their operators to go through within the first 3 years to ensure that they have all the necessary responsible gaming programs, policies, and features within their organizations. And that was a key part for Ontario. There's, in the regulations, in their agreements with operators, they have to, for example, put a certain percentage of advertising dollars have to go to responsible gaming programming and advertising, and they have to there's very specific rules around advertising, around self-exclusion. In the next 12 months, Ontario will introduce a universal self-exclusion, which means if you self-exclude at a casino, you'll be self-excluded from all of the licensed online operators as well, or vice versa.
Okay.
So they've taken it seriously. The operators have embraced it. I think that they've recognized that leading with we want a long-term sustainable relationship with our customers, and the big piece of that at the front end was the prohibition on advertising incentives and bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
You can offer them, but you can offer them to customers once they sign up. So that's going to be a bumpy one for a while, because the affiliates are kind of like, what do you mean? We want to do this. And because the affiliates aren't registered or licensed in Ontario, the operators have to ensure all of their suppliers and partners adhere to the rules. The compliance programs flow out of the operators. So there's going to be a few, that's going to be a bit of a learning curve, I think, in that one around those. From changing past behavior of what everybody's been used to in North America, but most of the operators are saying that's great. We can compete on product and customer service, and we're going to do that. And so, it's really designed to. They've said, listen, we want this to work. We want it to work in the long term. The industry, our membership, have said, no, we're with you in trying to do that. I mean, we've seen what happened, in the United Kingdom. Advertising went unrestricted, and now they hauled it all back. And you can't do anything. And everybody's recognized, even broadcasters are recognizing that we can't run wall-to-wall ads. Because as much as they'd like to, earn the revenue and do all of that, and what they would, they recognize too that, it may be nice in the short term, but it may not be sustainable in the long term. And so we're having that conversation because we want to make sure that we build a sustainable market, and that allows people to compete and still advertise and do things. And so there's lots of awareness around these issues, and I think people have embraced them as operators. They've said, hey, this is great. We don't have to, it's not a race to the biggest offer. It's not. So it's going to be about product. It's going to be about engaging your customer, and for Canadians, even though we've had this access to the gray market and people basically had unrestricted access to sports betting online, there's a lot of people who didn't participate, and there's a lot of casual bettors and sports fans that are out there now. And I think that's one of the things who can capture that, who can make it attractive for the casual bettor. Because, hey, listen, sometimes a screen full of odds can be rather daunting.
Yeah.
So how do you break that down for people?
Yeah, you mentioned advertising. I want to ask about that. I'm sitting here in New Jersey, and I have New York to the north of me and Pennsylvania to the west of me, and I get all their television programs. I get everything from New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania, and I'm seeing about 10 TV ads of online gaming an hour. I mean, is it like that in Canada? Certainly you have the restrictions on the promos and what you can offer, but is it wall-to-wall advertising now without offering the promos?
Well, you have to know Ontario shares a border with Michigan and New York.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So since last spring, summer, when Michigan went live, so a whole chunk of the province has been inundated with because we get a lot of U.S. television, a lot of sports from U.S. networks and stuff available here. So one chunk of the province has been seeing those ads for months and months and months. And New York started a couple months back, and we started seeing. I live in Toronto. I get Buffalo and Western New York TV, and we saw the ads start rolling in. And so we've seen it, and then we've also had in Canada the .net play for free advertising was legal, allowed. And so we've had a lot of advertising already, even for sites that were, as I say, that offered play for free contests or play for free casino games. And it was, so we've had that, and now it's been being replaced. by the legal regulated offerings, and so it's we knew it was going to be more, and we're really just, everybody from broadcasters to advertisers and interactive advertising, Bureau of Canada, everybody's worked together to try and make sure that it's sustainable, but understands the rules, and so we've, major shift is 2 weeks ago was Google was changed their policies to permit Ontario licensed operators to use gaming ads on Google. So that was a big move that had been prohibited. But they set down a series of rules of what they'll will and won't accept, and so it's very, I think, a really positive conversation in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Stick around; we'll be right back with House of Cards.
You're listening to House of Cards.
I'm talking sick piles of money. I'm talking lay on your bed in your Vegas room, throw the money in the air, and dance as it showers down on you money. I'm talking frosted glass limo money. I'm talking big cowboy hat, silver turquoise buckle money. I'm talking gambling.
I am in love with you.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishautel with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with the president and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association, Paul Burns. Now, as I said in the introduction, Canada has online casinos as well. Who are the operators for the online casino platforms in Canada?
Well, it's, as I said, everybody can offer both, right?
Okay.
So this is the best part is that you come in with Scorebet has, an Evolution, a live dealer platform. They have casino games. So, you're going to see everything everywhere. As a pure play casino site, we've seen Party Casino come in and 888 come in with unique, like strictly casino sites and then separate sports sites. Leo Vegas, done the same. Mm-hmm. We're going to, I think the leading tranche of operators are going and leading with sports and having gaming, coming in as a sort of a pure play casino site. I don't think we're going to see too many of those right now because it really has been a rush for the sports books.
Yeah, I was curious.
But we will.
I was curious about that because something I see here in New Jersey is when I go to an online sports book is that they have an online casino link with them. I mean, some of the sports books even have a shared wallet with the online casino. Do you think that's going to be something that Canada will see in the future, or is this something that maybe as time goes on, as the process builds, you might see more of that in Canada?
What's going on right now is in one of the areas where the province of Ontario needs to work with the existing casino operators in the province is on that single wallet. That's the group that's going to be, that they've been wanting it and it hasn't come yet, even with launching. The casino sites are launching soon. But the casinos want to be able to have that single wallet, create that omni-channel experience for their customer that they can linking their rewards programs, doing all of those things. That will come for sure, and it's just we kind of wished it'd come sooner, but it's they're working on it, and I suspect in the coming weeks and months we'll see casinos will be able to start to transition to that single wallet opportunity for them. I think after that, that's probably as far as the single wallet concept is going to go in the short term. But I think it's very healthy for the casino operators who are really using this to, they want people to visit their buildings too.
Yeah.
And that's, and the same with retail sports books in that regard. And we'll see them probably partner with the big name sports books in particular for a few of the companies here that are local. But Mohegan operates Fallsview Casino, and they've got partners already. And Caesars is in Windsor, and launched their Caesars sportsbook, and we'll be launching the online casino portion of that. So Hard Rock International operates up in Ottawa, and they'll bring their interactive side to this when it comes. So there's lots of good things coming, and lots of more brands and choices.
Now, one thing that has excited people about Canadian gambling is now people can play online poker. Who are the online poker operators, or who do you think will be the online poker operators in the country?
Well, Canada's been a very healthy poker market for a very long time. And PokerStars, has been the dominant brand in Canada. So as a gray market offering, I'm speculating, but I'm guessing that I think Canada was probably definitely in the top 10 countries, maybe in the top 5 for PokerStars in terms of players and revenue. But we have Party has been another. Party Poker was a big offer, and PokerStars, and those have been the two most dominant brands in Canada for a long time, because they came in early, like a decade ago. So we suspect they will continue, and I don't know if others are going to really challenge that at this point in time. I haven't heard a lot of chatter about poker beyond those two.
I was wondering how your online poker industry is set up in Canada. In the U.S., only a handful of states allow online poker, and a couple of those states joined a compact. So, people in Nevada, New Jersey, and Delaware, and probably soon Michigan, can play each other because of the interstate compact. Do you foresee something like that in Canada, where the different provinces will be joining some kind of agreement where they can share online poker players?
Well, the provincial lottery corporations, which have traditionally been the operators of online gaming in their jurisdictions, as the legal regulated option in the gray market, they tried to do a linked Canadian poker site, and it didn't work because they were competing against PokerStars and Party and companies like that who had international liquidity. So there was always this open liquidity market. This is going to be the challenge. That when I mentioned about DFS, the liquidity question in Ontario is we're hoping to see resolved in the coming weeks. And because as it will come out that as the companies are transitioning, PokerStars and Company and Party have all applied for licenses. The question about having to be able to maintain liquidity in the market is a challenge for them. And that's why this liquidity question, which it seems to be only a few government lawyers are getting in the way of, to be frank, and interpretations are keeping us from having all that happen right away. So that's why it's an outstanding question still for the companies in the long term. But they want to enter. They've indicated they are. They've applied for their licenses and they've done their work. But the liquidity question is going to be a big barrier for them, and so they want it solved ASAP. As do even the regulator, would be happy to have the international liquidity. It's just a few government lawyers standing in our way at this point.
Now, you've mentioned the gray market a couple of times. I'm curious, what has the Canadian gaming industry's response been with regard to offshore and unlicensed platforms? I know in the U.S. they're stressing that if you play on licensed sites, they're more secure, they're more reliable with deposits and withdrawals. I mean, what is the message that the Canadian gaming industry is trying to relay to potential customers out there?
So the question in Canadian law was, and why it's gray and not black and white, because the U.S. took a few other steps around UEGA and others to make it a little more definitive. The Wire Act, some other things, the laws are a little more succinct and clear. In Canada, the question about where the criminal code, because it was written 40 years ago, never really been changed, when it talked about conducting managed gaming within their jurisdictions. So the question, and the legal question that's unresolved, is where does the bet occur? Is it in my home in Toronto, or is it the server in the UK or Malta or Isle of Man? And nobody wanted to answer that question. No one wanted clarity. Because the provinces, in my opinion, were afraid to get the answer they wouldn't like.
Yeah.
And that, the bet does occur offshore, and they can do whatever they want because, under foreign actor clause in Canadian law, we can't charge people for crimes beyond the borders of Canada. And the fact if they're not even here, but the internet's an amazing thing, and it brings everything, brings the world to your computer screen. No one wanted to answer the question, and there's always been a solution. It's a solution Ontario just deployed this week. Mm-hmm. And as an industry, we were saying we need to regulate online gaming because we prefer all gaming to be regulated, that there's a level playing field, that there's equal levels of being able to offer product as well as following the same kind of rules. And that hasn't occurred. And it wasn't going away. It's not going away. And so we were grateful to get Ontario to say, maybe we should do something. And they did. Mm-hmm. And that's great. Now that's 1 down, 9 to go. I guess is the best way to describe it.
Well, let me ask you about that. Well, let me ask you about that.
And they can all regulate it differently, but they all have to, but choosing to create a regulated market will solve the gray market problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ontario was the big story in Canadian gaming this week. What can we expect from the other provinces in the coming weeks?
I think it's going to be a case of watch and see.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see how Ontario performs. How are they really going to solve the gray market, and is the illegal market going to thrive and grow? Early signs are I think they've probably got 80% of the gray market operators entering the market. So I think that I think they're on a good track,
mm-hmm.
but I think the provinces are going to wait and see, and I think that's what they want to do.
Okay.
And we're as an association, all we want to do is make sure that the provinces start a dialogue.
Yeah.
Because Ontario's model may not be the model for British Columbia or Quebec, but you got to regulate online gaming. You have to do something, and the industry will help you, whether it's a tethered model or it's a model like New York, or pick it, have a conversation, but we need to do something. And that's all we're asking to do. We're not advocating for one over the other at this point. We're just saying, let's see the results. You can point to U.S. jurisdictions and states that have done it well. Some haven't done it so well. We're going to see what Ontario does. Mm-hmm. And that's all we want to, because they said the only way you can solve this, the tool that's at your disposal to deal with this in the most effective way, is to create a regulated regime.
Now, I know it's very early in the process, but have you seen any numbers in terms of players, handle, revenue from the sites that went live April 4th? I mean, is everyone happy in terms of the traffic to the site so far?
Everybody's outward positions is they're thrilled and they're happy and they're moving forward. The interesting part of this is that because of the government involvement in gaming in Canada and ownership in many ways,
mm-hmm.
we don't have a culture of disclosing monthly performance.
Okay.
So we're all waiting to see actually what they're going to start releasing. So it's going to be an exciting time because they will be releasing data, but they haven't. They're just trying to, I think, determine what that will be and how frequently. So we all hang on, waited to see what comes. But that's this is new territory for this kind of regulated market. So we're hopeful. We're looking forward to seeing some numbers in the coming days or weeks. We don't know when, but they said they will be. So it'll be fun to see, and we'll be able to measure Ontario's success as we go forward.
Well, when they come out, you're going to have to come back on and fill us in because I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in Canada. But we're running out of time. But do you have a website or a social media address so people can keep up to date about what's going on with the Canadian Gaming Association and the whole gambling industry in Canada?
Yeah, we're at CanadianGaming.ca and at Canadian Gaming, CDN is the short form for Canadian, at CDN Gaming for Twitter. And, we're, and you can always find me, Paul Burns, on LinkedIn. So there's always lots of happy to talk to folks, and we look forward to a successful Ontario market. I mean, we're out to, there's a good story to tell up here from our growing gaming industry, and so we're actively doing that. And I think that the big winner, though, I think with the launch in April 4th of the Ontario market was the consumer. They're going to have a lot more choice, and it's going to be great for them.
Paul Burns, President and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association, thanks so much for coming on and telling us about what's going on in the gambling industry in Canada. It's an absolutely incredible market doing amazing things in every aspect of the gambling industry. Like I said, please come back on and keep us updated about Canada's growth and an incredible gaming scene.
We're happy to do that. So we'll, when we have some numbers to talk about, I'll come back because we're anxiously waiting to see when the government decides to release them. So
we'd love to hear about it. Well, that'll do it for us this week. We'll talk to you later on House of Cards.